Greetings everyone, I hope you are fine, I hope you are doing well. In this video, I just want to talk about the media and Jacob Zuma. Did media do too much upon Jacob Zuma? So this is the main question. And I'm going to try by all means to say everything that I want to say in 15 minutes. So without any waste of time, I just want us to hear what this gentleman here is about to say.
I don't think it will be proper for us to start this conversation without quoting veteran UK-based journalist John Pelger, who had this to say, and I quote, "It is not enough for journalists to see themselves as mere messengers without understanding the hidden agenda of the message and the myths that surround it." In an interview, the same Pelger warned, and he said, and I quote, "Many journalists now are no more than channelers and echoers of what George Orwell called the official truth. They simply cipher and transmit lies. It really grieves me that so many of my fellow journalists can be so manipulated that they become really what the French describe as fonctionnaires or functionaries and not journalists. Many journalists become defensive when you suggest to them that they are anything but impartial and objective. The problem with those words, impartiality and objectivity, is that they have lost their dictionary meaning," unquote. Peter, this sadly, explicitly encapsulates the state of the media in South Africa. To answer your question, I had some introspection and I talked to myself and I decided, you know what, there's something going on in this industry and it's time for us to open up this debate. And I deliberately used President Jacob Zuma as an example. Let me put it on record that I'm not President Jacob Zuma's newest praise singer. My intention here is to stand for the truth. I would rather be a villain that stands for the truth than be a celebrated hero that spreads lies. I wrote the column that you alluded to. My reason for using Jacob Zuma as an example was to show to us if we can do this to the most powerful man in South Africa and get away with it, what chance does an ordinary man in the street stand? I have been vilified, but I still stand by my apology. The reason why I'm being vilified, especially by my colleagues in the industry, we apologize on a regular basis. We get our facts wrong from time to time. The office of the press ombudsman is busy. We spread lies. We are biased. We apologize on a regular basis. The problem my colleagues in the industry have with this apology is that it is not just an apology. The problem is the person who this apology is directed to. That is why I'm this villain.
I would like to begin by saying, as human beings, we may have different perceptions because at the end of the day, I have my different perception, you have your different perception, and so forth and so forth. For me personally, it's difficult to believe this man. It's difficult for me to believe this gentleman, but there's something that made me to believe this man. The knowledge that I have, history, and many other factors that makes me to admit that I have to believe some of the things that this gentleman has stated in this video. In my life, there are 10 groups of people that I don't trust. I just want to mention maybe 2 or 3, because the first ones are the colonialists, those who come in the name of helping, in the name of charity, in the name of investment. I don't trust them. Number 2, pastors. 3, journalists. 4, politicians. I cannot trust them, politicians, to the fullest. So I don't want to talk about the rest in this video, because I want to focus on media. I just want to focus on media, because media cannot be trusted, especially right now. But this whole thing of not trusting media didn't start right now. It started long time ago. It's just that back then, it's just that there are few people who were aware of what was happening. So because of social media, many people started realizing that the mainstream media can be dangerous. Why I say this is because if 1994 did not happen, I would trust media with my life. I would trust media to the fullest. Jacob Zuma is not a perfect man, is someone who made a lot of errors during his rulership, and many other things as well that I may not have time to talk about in this video. But the reason I talk about 1994, if 1994 did not happen, I would trust media with all my heart, is because mainstream media made us to believe that 1994 was the best thing ever happened to the South Africans. Mainstream media made us believe that the fake independence that took place in Africa was the best thing ever happened to the Africans. But as you start digging deep, as you start analyzing, then you start realizing that everything was fake. You start realizing that the colonialists were in charge of planning African independence. Just imagine, somebody has just oppressed you for many years, held you hostage for a long period of time, and you start planning your independence, your freedom together with them. Then it means something is wrong somewhere. But mainstream media was used so that people would not question such things, so that people would not question about all these things. So that is why they started talking good about what happened in 1994. Then today we start realizing that the owners of mainstream media are not actually the people who care about this country, because these people, they always come in the name of helping, in the name of charity, in the name of rescue. But in reality, they are not rescuing. Why? Because they only care about themselves. They don't care about anyone. Because I believe that if you are a media, you have to be in between. You are like a mediator between people and the government. Because sometimes the government officials and the politicians, sometimes they may do certain things that are against the people. They may be involved in corruption. So if they are involved in corruption, or you have discovered that these people are engaged in corruption, so you have to come out. You have to, in other words, expose the lies. In other words, you have to uncover the truth so that people can see what is happening. Why? Because you are like a mediator. But right now, as you speak, you can realize, or you can see that these people are not mediating at all, but instead they are against the people. They want to tell people what they want people to hear, not what people need to hear, but what they want people to hear. For an example, in 1994, they wanted people to believe that they are free. I know many politicians will obviously disagree with me. Why? Because me personally, I don't believe in democracy. But it doesn't mean I cannot agree with politicians whenever they say things that I believe that can do good for the country or for Africa. So what I just want to say is that it doesn't mean if you are a politician, I cannot agree with you just because we disagree based on the fact that you are a democratic and I don't believe in democracy, and etc. and etc. So if you say things that are progressive to the country, I have to agree with you. I have to say good things about you. But when it comes to media, it may be just a bit different. Why? Because media is focusing on sabotaging. In other words, if you are for the people, they will try by all means to find something that they can use against you. Why? Because media is good when it comes to exaggerating. So if someone has done something which is wrong, expose those lies. Expose that corruption so that this person at the end of the day can be charged. But instead of doing so, they want to exaggerate. They want to add lies. They want to put some more lies on top of that. That is why at the end of the day, we end up confused. If this person is guilty or if this person is not guilty. It's because of media. Why? Because media is programming the minds of the people, is telling the people what they want to hear. So that is why the minds of people, or the minds of many people right now as we speak, are only interested in negativity. Why? Because we're made to believe that people like Ibrahim Traore and others are terrorists. These people are uncivilized, and etc. and etc. So that is why at the end of the day, we want to hear what the media wants to tell us, and we want to believe everything that the media tells us. Why? Because that's the aim, that's the purpose. Why? Because after the death of Chris Hani, media didn't do enough to expose the lies, to expose the system, to expose everything that led towards the death of Chris Hani and everything. Because if you are for people, you have to try by all means to mediate for people. And there are few journalists who might have found themselves in trouble for pursuing certain things. So that's a sign that if you are going to work for media, if you're going to find yourself in this world of media, you'll have to know what are you putting yourself into as well. This is something which is very important that we need to be aware of. We are not saying people should not be charged. But at the same time, you cannot talk about corruption and say this person is corrupt, this person is corrupt. But at the end of the day, this person is not charged. Even the courts are not saying anything. Even the current leaders are not saying anything to say, okay, if this person is guilty, if this person is corrupt, let us take this person to prison. But why is not happening? It's because they know that they've added their own lies as well on top of that. So that is why it can be even difficult to put someone in prison. Why? It's because you want to add lies, not because of that particular individual, not because of the people who are close to the particular individual, because they want to control the minds of the people, because they know very well that the democratic system is based on the numbers. It's all about the numbers. So they want those numbers to walk away from this person, or to stop following this individual. This is my perception. Yes, other people may disagree with me, but it's hard for me to believe the journalists whenever they talk, whenever they say something. Why? Because they always want to talk about negative things. Right now, you can even open your television. You can open your television. Things that are exciting are those things that are negative. Why? Because the minds of the people have been manipulated so that they can consume things that are negative daily. Because if you consume things that are negative daily, then you start depending on this politician, then we start dividing. That is why even right now it's difficult for us to come together. Put the politicians aside. People to come together when it comes to ideas, to say, but I'm not a member of this political party, but this leader is right. I'm not a fan of this individual. I'm not a fan of this person, but this person is right. So we cannot even come together to say that. Even the politicians themselves, they cannot come forward and say, but now it's like you are doing too much on this man. Even though this man is the leader of the opposition political party or opposing political party, but now you are doing too much. So they cannot come forward, even if they see that there are many lies that are being said about this individual. They won't come forward. Why? Because it's a political game. The political game is based on the numbers. So they don't want to give this person credit, because if they can say that, it might happen that there are many people who might continue following that particular individual. Why? Because we have our groups. So we want to expand our groups. We want to increase numbers in our groups. So at the end of the day, we end up not caring about the people. It's because of the media, because media is causing all this confusion. That is why at the end of the day, it's difficult for politicians to prioritize people. Now you can tell that many politicians prioritize themselves, even if they see that the only solution here is to come together so that we can do what people want. But it's going to be difficult, or it will still be difficult for them to come together. Why? Because everybody wants to talk bad about somebody else. They want to talk good about themselves. Then at the same time, we have media. That media now is adding more lies on top of other lies. Many people started realizing that there's something wrong with this media during the evolution of social media. So when social media came in, many people started realizing that there's something wrong about mainstream media, and there are things that mainstream media is not reporting. That's when many people started complaining. That's when many people started waking up. And the system realized that now people were now getting like a freedom of speech, something like that. Then they didn't like that. That is why they started censoring the social media. So that is why when you talk about certain topics here on social media, your videos won't get views. In other words, they are trying by all means to stop that information or to stop that content. Why? It's because people have been programmed to love negative things only. So if you're going to talk about the positive things, they won't be, like for an example, people won't be interested because they've been programmed like that. So that is why right now we have many teachers of algorithms and many other things, how the algorithm works, YouTube algorithm, Facebook algorithm, TikTok algorithm, and etc. and etc. But they don't tell you that this thing is being influenced by the system, because in other words, the algorithm is not an angel from heaven who will say, you know what, I want to boost you with popularity. I want to boost you with the number of views. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. There is a hand of man who is deciding to say, you know what, you have to be careful of this type of content. You have to censor this type of content so that it doesn't disturb them. That is why in most cases, when the White House changes in America, in the US, when the new president comes in, either from the Democratic or Republicans or something like that, even the policies of these social media platforms should change. I know that they often or they frequently change their policies, but in most cases it's happening as a result of who is in the White House. So that is why they'll come and censor certain information, certain content, certain words, and etc., in order to please those individuals. That is why right now TikTok is under pressure. So it keeps on blocking people. And now many people have started blaming TikTok. There's absolutely nothing they can do. Why? Because TikTok has given people a freedom of speech. In other words, a freedom to relax and express yourself to the fullest. But now they have to be in control of TikTok so that at the end of the day, people won't have a freedom of speech. This is the main focus. So these social media platforms, whenever they block your content, whenever they delete your channel, sometimes you should not blame them that much, because even they themselves are under pressure. So that is why right now mainstream media and social media are now just a bit similar. It's just that social media is still giving people like that freedom to talk, that freedom. But we have what we call the algorithm. Remember, the algorithm is not an angel, but there's a hand of man who decides that I don't want this type of content. We don't want this. We don't want this. That is why if you go to other countries, and you access these social media platforms, the algorithm in those countries is completely different. Is completely different. But here in Africa, we don't have power. We don't have anything. That is why we allow everything. But the truth, or my perception, is that mainstream media cannot be trusted. Why? Because they are not in favor of the people. What they want is to program the minds of the people. But why this is happening? This is happening because people are not in charge. That is why if you are excluded from the economy, if you are not running your mainstream media, what do you expect? Do you expect people from other countries, the outsiders, to speak good about you, about your country, about your president, about what is happening? Absolutely not. They will always be negative, especially if the system doesn't like you. As I've said, these mainstream media companies are owned by people who don't care about Africans, who don't care about these countries. And since they don't care about these countries, they will program you so that you can believe all these lies. It's not only mainstream media, it's mainstream television, mainstream everything. These things are there to manipulate the minds of the people. But if we talk like this, they start censoring our videos. They start censoring our content as if what we are saying are lies. But you have to understand that they don't want many people to know the truth. I'm not saying Jacob Zuma is 100% not guilty. I'm not saying these other politicians are not guilty. That's not what I'm saying. But the main thing is, if someone is guilty, charge that person based on what they are guilty on. Don't add other things. Don't add lies. Don't add other stories. Don't add your stories so that everything can be quick. We go to the court. This person is charged. This person is penalized. Something like that. End of story. And some of these cases, they end up taking a long time. Why? Because they also involve other people who are also protected by the system. I don't want this video to be long, but the problem is here, there's a lot of information that you need to be aware of, because once you become, for an example, aware of certain things, then even your understanding, even your reasoning, even your fights become different. because you will stop fighting for everything. You will stop fighting for everybody the moment you start realizing that mainstream media there and there is telling lies. I'm not saying they are 100% corrupt, they are 100% telling lies. They only tell the truth when it's related to something that is in their agenda. Then they tell the truth. Why? Because it's all about popularity. It's all about the view. Well, I'm not saying like this one is guilty, this one is not guilty. That's not what I'm saying. But I would like to agree with this gentleman here to say there are many lies somewhere. There are many lies. Why? That is why you won't hear journalists talking good about Burkina Faso. You won't hear them talking good about Burkina Faso, talking good about, every time they talk about Burkina Faso, the overthrowing of government, coup d'etat. Why? Because the moment you think about coup d'etat, you think it's a bad thing. Why? Because you have been programmed to think that, okay, coup d'etat is oh, this is coup d'etat is a bad thing, But here is the thing. The most important thing that you need to focus on is to liberate. Liberation is not a bad thing. If you can prioritize liberation, then you will understand that what is happening in Burkina Faso, what is happening in Mali, what is happening in Niger is a good thing. Why? For the people, not for those leaders. There are those who make coup d'etat because they are funded by the colonialists. They overthrow, but they overthrow to benefit themselves and to benefit the colonialists. So I'm not a fan of democracy. I know many politicians are focusing on democracy. They prefer democracy. They love democracy. But the main thing is, after 30 years of democracy, the natives are still struggling. They are still suffering. They are afraid to walk freely. They don't have freedom. They still live in squatter camps. They still live in all these camps that were built for them. And nothing has changed.